Hi, I'm Tamara of Dear Black Girl, Tamara Payne, and I am a mixed media, multimedia artist. And we're here with some women and some girls of Dear Black Girl, just sharing our journey and sharing our experiences of Black girlhood and womanhood.
Dear black girl.
Dear Black Girl.
Hey, beautiful black girl.
Dear black girl.
Hi, good morning, ladies. I'm here to have conversation, to share our journeys, and what it is that, we experience in the world. So outside of us just being amazing people, and what we contribute to the world, I feel like as Black women, we've always been the backbones of our communities. And I feel like sharing our journey right now at this point in time, is a way in which that we can honor ourselves, and that we can really give back to the world, which we do organically anyway. But I really want us to really focus on our heroic journeys.
So my first question is, what is the most joy you feel like you've experienced?
I think the most joy that I've experienced is just being a lifelong creative. So when I picked up the pen at a standardized test in 5th grade that was called You're a Poet and You Don't Know It, that started my poetic journey. And so I think poetry was the nucleus to all of my artistic experiences and explorations. And so I think being a creative means that you are a vessel of the divine, right? Of the creative source. And so we have an inkling into that creative voice, that creative vision. And anytime I can pull something out of the ethers and make it physical, that to me is the most joyous experience of all.
For me, there are a couple. So I'm a visionary, and so I get to travel abroad, and I think that there is no higher experience than to see someone come to the Lord. I think that, so when you're out in the field, you see the Bible come to life, and you will hear words quoted, and you're like, oh my goodness, like I know, I've heard that. In terms of professional, for me, as an interior designer and a creative, I love that is when I'm able to take a plain canvas, and create for another person their dream home or their dream space. It gives me joy to see people living the way they imagined that they would live. And so for me, those two are the highest forms for me in terms of what brings me joy, because it brings them joy.
Yeah, you know what, and I guess I'll respond to that question also, because I feel like we're all creatives, in some form. It could be in media or, visual, but more. But I feel like for me, that joy comes in manifesting my dreams, which might be similar to what you both are saying, having a vision again, and witnessing it. No one knows the conversations, and I know that, inevitably I am not the creator. I know that I'm not the first curator, so I know that the vision doesn't necessarily come from me, but the fact that, I was led. And I think as an educator, I always talk, about that in reference to, like, we're curating our lives, but yet we're also the artwork as well. When did you realize that your uniqueness, because I feel like mine started early on, I realized that I was different. I realized that I was a unique being, and in spite of all of the other interferences in the world, or sometimes negative talk, I don't really feel like there was ever any negative self-talk with myself. I don't know. Like, I don't remember that. I think fear sets in, but I guess, it's like I realized at an early age that I was gifted. I may not have fully known what the gift was, but it was insightful. I knew I could see things, because it was always like deja vu. But like, when did you really feel like you were witnessing in yourself, you walking in your superpowers?
It's interesting you say that. I think you get glimpses of it. I don't think you totally see it. I think it's a journey, and you come to that place where you're like, wow, this is it, totally manifested. I remember when I was young, I used to like to rearrange things and fix houses, and my room, I would always change my room. And my mother and we were working on this project. We broke up all the glass and we made all these designs. And I vividly remember that. I did a whole lot of other things in my journey, but that was always in the back of my mind to develop this design. And it really happened after my divorce. I'd gone through a painful divorce, and I remember thinking to myself, let me do what I've always dreamed of doing. And so I went to design school. Mid-age, I went to design school. And I remember looking at a traditional home magazine, had old design magazines, and I remember opening the magazine to the New York School of Interior Design. And I says, I'm going there. They had an open house. I got on a train. I went up there. And I remember walking through those doors. And when I walked through the doors, I knew I was supposed to be there. So I was good at design. One of the things design school helps you to is to discipline that, to understand so it is the art, and then there's the science of design. And being in that school and surrounded, and honestly, there were about 5 Black people in the school, Upper East Side School and New York School of Interior Design. Okay. It is one of the top schools in the nation, and its only discipline is interior design. I forget the professor's name, that Black professor. She had literally had my first day at school curated. She was the interior designer to several celebrities, and I remember she asked me, what will be your aesthetic? And I remember instantly saying, I want to work with clients that have art collections or that are collectors. And so, hence and I had an opportunity to work with some people that had some of the largest collections. And for me, that moment came early, but I saw the development of it. And when I did this space, and I remember my client coming to me, and she said, and it literally, when I started working with her, it was a construction site, and she came and she sat in her living room and she smiled. And that is what I want. And she called me up and she just said, thank you for creating the home that I always imagined that I would live in. And and for me, that is like the apex. That is the moment. But for me, I think it's developed over time. As a designer, as an artist, as a creative, you're always reaching new heights. You have not yet attained, right? Because if you are, then you're satisfied, right? So you're always reaching for better, for more. Yeah. And I think your audience, they help to inform that. And then you look and you'll do something else and you're like, wow, I didn't know I can do that either. And so I think you always evolve.
My experiences are similar in reference to going to predominantly white schools. What is somebody else's experience in being out in the world and not necessarily being seeing others, such as yourself, not seeing yourself, either in institutions or in business, in work situations, but just in life in general? Like, how do you feel like that you've navigated through that?
Well, I'll tell you, growing up in the South Bend, Indiana, it was the most important thing for me was living in a Black enclave. And that community gave me the wings and the power to go and see the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. My first experience, and you were having this conversation a few moments ago, in my elementary school, we were all Black. And because of our community, we integrated a second group to integrate the junior high school. In my first day at junior high, Susan Grove called me a dumbass nigger. Now, that will be with me. So we're talking 1960 something.
Did you know then that was a negative?
It was very clear.
Okay.
I lived in a Black enclave, and so here's this white woman, white girl, who decided that I'm a nigger. and I whooped her behind, like, till it broke like Oprah. But that's what I was supposed to do because I couldn't go back up that hill with Beverly and Cheryl and all the rest of them. But it also set the tone for me. It set the tone. This is not a safe space. Safe space is on the east side. We'll go home this August to an east side reunion. That's not a safe space. And that brought in a whole, my daddy got his attorney, Pat Brennan, to sit down because he was going to sue the South Bend school system. So that, my father was a warrior, and everybody in my neighborhood was a warrior. So this is what you're going to have to do. You better be ready. So Susan Groves set the tone. That's number one. Number two, what was real serious was when I found a job setting up the Modern Day Marine Force and Readiness Military Exposition. And a retired one-star general would tape something, because he was new to the company, would tape little notes of instructions on the back of my chair. I'm the only black thing in the whole building in Crystal City. I took all those little pieces of paper off of the back of my chair, walked into his office with all the little pieces of paper, and I said, if you ever threw it on his desk, I will beat your ass. Now, we're sitting here, and he could have done whatever he wanted to do, but he went out and had it free because he wanted to see what I was made of. Did she have the capacity to sit here with all these retired Marines? I'm not a Marine, and I'm a black woman who has an opinion and can articulate a thought. So that was kind of early, right? Now you go through and all of the other experiences that I've had in dealing with racism as a black woman, but being comfortable being black and not having to worry about what is going to happen to me because it doesn't matter. God has something else for me when it's time for me to go. And you have to know when that time is to do whatever it is that you need to do. But at the end of the day, for me, it has to be settled in peace within me. And you can't disturb that peace because now it's war.
When did you feel like you got to the place where other people's opinions did not matter? Because I feel like for me, it's taken me a while, you know, to get to the point where it's not that other people's opinions matter, but I felt like that I can really own what it is that I felt, you know, and say out loud, you know, what I really felt or what my opinion is without feeling as though there would be any backlash. I felt like the safe space was within, you know, and I don't necessarily feel like, you know, because the next question that I was going to ask was, when did you ever feel like you were in a safe space? And I don't know if I feel that consistently in the world, maybe with individuals, and then sometimes not. And it depends on what season I'm in.
Tamara, just picking up on that point of a safe space and understanding or feeling like I'm creating that safe space within, and then allowing that calm that I create within myself, and that's through my connection to my creator. And then drowning out all of the outside noise. I think once I'm able to do that, and honestly, I can pinpoint it to probably 2020. It was a time when the world was making so much noise. And we were all, in so many ways, isolated. And in that isolation, I felt like I was really able to hear my own inner voice. And when I could hear my inner voice, that voice helped me to appreciate that my safe space has always been the core of who I am.
That's right.
And so the louder my inner voice could speak, the quieter the outer noise was for me. And so for me, I've truly felt like our purpose, sometimes pain can push us to our purpose.
Yeah.
But we've also recognize that it always existed.
But you know what? And Carmen, I'm there because I feel like that is why I've always felt comfortable with myself and just being authentically who I was, whether I was teased or taunted, because I was teased as a Black girl. I was always in a multicultural environment. I was teased by my own, and kind of, treated poorly by other Black kids, but then I didn't feel accepted in the white communities. So where else would I feel safe? Within myself. Right. So I think like COVID was a time for me where it was a happy time. It was a time where I'm just like, okay, I can create. Yes. I can, feel comfortable with me and manifest all the great things that I've envisioned. I don't know. I think that was like one of the better times, for me, that I didn't feel. I think a lot of people don't. They're not used to hearing their inner voices, or sometimes we don't want to deal with some of the inner turmoils. And interesting enough, I just created a piece of artwork, and it was just me just taking a photograph. And it was connected to the song Juicy by Biggie Smalls. And it was only a dream, because I think losing a parent and not having your parents here, and I'm going to redirect, the conversation to, I wonder within myself, I took a photograph, and it was only a dream was the title. So if I'm really being honest with myself, what are some things that I remember, from childhood? What are some things that I don't remember, and why don't I remember them?
I think for me, I've always had a fond moment about childhood. I grew up in Baltimore City. To me, in the best time, but to some who were here before us, the worst time. I was born in 87. So for anyone who knows, 1987 was not kind for Black America, right? But here is this child growing up in the projects with my family who lived there for 30 years. So I have fond memories of being down there playing in this space that was supposedly one of the most dangerous places on earth, right? But there was so much love.
But did you know that? Yeah, you didn't know that?
Of course I knew,
okay.
Right? Some of my earliest memories were like helicopters flying overhead because it was a drug war going on. You know what I mean? My uncles getting locked up, People that were in really dire situations. We grew up in poverty, but I remember running around and playing, right? I remember playgrounds. I remember eating crabs. I remember the music. TLC, right? Like that was what made me happy, right? And those were my role models as well as my family members, and we were very close knit. And so that, I think, they weren't considered safe spaces to others, but they were safe spaces for us, right? You're down there for 30 years building community with people, and then they tell you that this is not a safe space. But we're like, hey, my mom still talks about people from back in the day, you know what I mean? And so I think family, and I've lost a lot of family members, so my grief, my heart goes out to you, because my cousins who I played with down there, 36, 40 years old, they're gone. I'm 36 now. I'm like, wow. And so to think about those memories now, there is still so much joy, but there's also sadness.
And how do you process that? I mean, I know it's you have this joy, but yet, there are moments, that are not, what we desire them to be, and the feeling. Because I think for me is just me remembering, I don't know, and I'm asking you how I process, but I'm also, I know the answer that I have for myself, because I think to myself, look at where I am today. I use those moments to kind of push me, to persevere to where it is that I feel like that I want to go, and I smile, because it could have went left, it could have been something entirely different. But I think about the trauma, and I think about how I have just pushed myself, and possibly it may have been that it was also a way in which I saved myself by not remembering, some things of childhood, and I'm not saying that it was all that horrible, but because everyone handles things differently, But I think the world can be, you know, a bit harsh in the experiences. I just remember just being a child and being very innocent. And it took me a while. I was like a late bloomer. but you know, I think just growing up, can anybody like share? Is everybody from Baltimore? You're not from Baltimore.
No, I'm not from Baltimore.
I'm the only
But I do share, yeah, you know, I do share what Unique is talking about. But I think that it's life. It ebbs and it flows. And right, you're right. You have those experiences that catapult you. But one of the things I find inspiring is other women. Because I will look at her and how she handled it, and if she could do that, and she's standing before me, God will send you what you need, and will sit that person right before you, and you will look at her and say, you know what, I'm going to be all right. You know, to talk to a woman who's been through divorce and other issues that we have, and her strength right before you. I'm sitting here, I'm looking at all these other women, and they give us strength, you know.
I want to say, and I think you pointed on it. So when I think about other women, even if I wasn't in the presence of a physical woman, there was music.
Yes.
There were like all of these beautiful Black women that were out here, that were creatives, that were in the universe, that I was just so inspired by, because, you know, today there's Cardi B and there's, you know, Megan Thee Stallion. Is this the Stallion? Stallion. But when I was growing up, it was like Anita Baker, you know, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, Sheila E., you know, and like all these other artists, Dionne Warwick. I mean, I grew up looking at Solid Gold and Soul Train, you know, but who are some women that, you know, outside of this is my tribe, but who are some women?
I'll tell you something. God has blessed me. I was raised by my stepmother and my father on the east side of South Bend, Indiana. And I can tell you, Goldie Ivory, Dallas Waters, Francis Dixon, whatever last name, Perkins, Mamie Taylor, and those were all Black women who lived on the east side of South Bend, and they made sure that we were all guided properly. And Betty Fleming. Then I get to here, and there's a whole community, Ann Emery, Margaret Armstrong, I can go on. And all of these women decided that they wanted to put me under their wing. They decided that I deserve to be what I need to be, but I needed guidance. And I couldn't do it by myself.
I don't think, you know, and I think that's one thing that I say to my students and I say to other people. We don't get anywhere in this world by ourselves. You know, we don't get anywhere in this world by ourselves.
And it's love.
I don't care how old you are.
That's right. And it's love. And you can feel the love, but it also gives you direction when you have a community around you to help you navigate all the foolishness and the beauty.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if I can list a few women that really spoke to me personally, obviously these were internationally known women, but it was something about their presence, it was something about their way of expression that spoke personally to me. I would say Coretta Scott King. She had a quiet strength. Audrey Hepburn, another who had a quiet strength. And then I would say even Alicia Keys, if I spoke of someone more modern. And what I'm so inspired by is that now that Alicia is a mother herself, and yet she's giving back. She's in a safe space, in a happy family arrangement, but she's giving back. And she currently has a Broadway show on in New York,
And the
called
Giants.
Hell's Kitchen, the Giants,
I just saw that yesterday.
which ends, I think, the 7th of July. But her and her husband are going to Georgia. So they actually are taking their exhibition to another state. You could just see how this creates this synergistic, inspiring feeling that just keeps growing. And so that's how you know you're being moved.
But I think this is moving. I think that the continued conversation and sharing our journeys, because I know that a tribe raised me, you know, and I'm continuing to grow and continuing to evolve. And I don't think it matters how old you are or how young you are, you know, so yeah.
Tamara, it looks so good on you.
And it looks good on us.
It looks good on us. And you know, I want to give a shout out to all of the first women first, right? Because they were in that space. And I imagine in that moment, the loneliness, right? That being the first to do that is not an easy space. But what they've set the precedent for us.
That's right.
And they paved the way for us to just follow them.
And that inspiration helped me to be the first in some areas. Well, I'm a first-gen college student, the first to leave Baltimore City and live elsewhere, and to come back and really believe in this city. You know what I mean? Shout outs to my mother and my grandmother. They were the women that really helped me.
Yes.
They were like, girl, we don't know what you're doing. They look good.
Yeah, what do you call that job that you have? Your mother can't explain what you do?
I just want to thank you all for being a part of this beautiful space, a part of my journey. And really, I think each individual person here inspires me in your own way. And I think that's why you're here today.
Thank you.
But I, look forward to what it is that we're to do here in the future. And I don't know what it is, but I know it's going to be great. Yes, it is. And I'm speaking those things into existence. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
The first person that I think of when it comes to influential women in my life would be my Nana. She's really artistic and really bold with how she does things. She's just a strong person in general, and I'm really glad that I've grown up with her. And the second person that I would think of would be my auntie Sharita, because she's also very artistic. She went to art school, and she's very flamboyant and put out there with her stance and how she acts. And I think it's really powerful when you're able to be that bold and precise with how you are as a person.
I would say my first person would be Tamara Payne. She is my mentor and my teacher at Baltimore City Community College. And ever since I've taken her class, maybe a year ago now, I've learned a lot from her. And she's definitely inspired me to continue to push myself and to grow as a person, but also as a young lady. She is definitely somebody I can definitely count on when it comes to needing to talk or hang out or whatever the case is. I can count on her just like she can count on me.
If I were to dream big about my art in my future, it would be for my art being impactful for someone's life and being able to make them cry in the way that I did when I saw the first Dear Black Girl installation. When I was there, I cried because I felt really seen, visible, and accepted. And I've felt that a couple other times since then. And with art, I find that really powerful. And to be fair, I do cry easily, but it still punched me in the gut with love and emotions. And I want to be able to be that for someone else, and maybe someone like who's growing up and they don't feel as seen or welcomed. And I want them to be able to see my art, see themselves, or see some sort of story that would represent them. And I want that to be resonating throughout their entire being, like it did with me.
Big dream of mine, I guess I would say traveling. a lot more than I currently am, as well as possibly working with huge brand and companies, and being a part of huge shows like British Vogue or Dior, not just being a model, but possibly doing something behind the scenes with production. I'm interested in a multitude of things. So yeah, I will have to say that working with huge names, traveling, helping my family, and giving back to Baltimore. I would say I have had a few moments where I did not feel safe, even amongst other Black women. How did I deal with it? I dealt with it by communicating with them and connecting. That is something I find that is really helpful for me, to be able to have conversations with them and just know a little bit more about them. So I can get more comfortable, and then they can get more comfortable with me. And then from there, something could possibly grow.
For me, in spaces that I don't feel fully welcomed in, I tend to try and exit, because if people aren't going to appreciate me for being me, then they're not worthy of my graces. Like, I like to express myself really, really flamboyantly. Like, when I go to school, it's a welcome place, mainly because it's an art school and a lot of people are expressing themselves to the fullest. And if I went to a high school that didn't fully let me express myself in a manner that people would be able to see me in, I don't think I would want to go to that school anymore. I mean, I pushed so hard to go to the school that I'm at because I wanted to feel accepted, and because I knew that there would be other artistic people and people who wouldn't mind when I dressed really big with like giant shoes and like big puffy skirts. Really, no one bats an eye. Someone wore a banana costume. So I just try to avoid situations that get me into that mindset, because it makes me push myself down, and I don't want to do that.
I feel like I have a lot of purposes, and some things I sought out, and some things were thrust upon me. You know, I'm a lawyer. I like protecting people's rights, but I also I'm a mom. I have autistic 11-year-old, and that was thrust upon me. That's not something I'm playing for, but it's taught me a lot of things. You know, like different ways to love. He's nonverbal, but I see so much love in him. It's a new way to communicate. You know, people say, how do you know what he wants? Oh, I know what he wants. I'm his mother, and he expresses himself in unique, different ways. So I think I was born to be his mom. I'm born to become his mom, and my oldest son's mom. I just, some things that make you who you are, you seek them out, and some things are thrust upon you. I love to sew as well. My grandmother used to try to get me to sew, and then one day I was walking by and I saw a sewing machine, and it made me think of her, and I bought it. And so that was something that kind of the universe kind of put in my path. I have several purposes, and I want to make a difference, and I want to leave a mark in the world. Yeah, honestly, sometimes I just sit in the car for a few minutes. After everybody goes in the house, sometimes I do that. I like to read a lot. I like to sew. I like to walk on the treadmill. All of those things are just some time where sometimes I just get up earlier before everybody in the house. Have my coffee, have my tea. I'll, watch something on the computer just by myself. You know what I mean? Everybody is asleep. Everybody's doing their own thing, but that's my perfect time before everybody gets up, and sometimes when everybody goes to the house, I'll take an extra minute and listen to an extra song in the car. So sometimes you got to steal away those moments for your own peace, Sometimes I go for walks with my dog or our dog. So those are things that I do for myself, and I like to really read a good book. I like to just walk on the treadmill, go for a walk. I have a garden. I love garden. I love my garden. I have tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, all of that stuff. Those are different things I've had to, because sometimes when things hit you like that, it's too much. But then after a while, you gotta take your 5 minutes. You can be sad for a minute, but then you gotta come back. You gotta come back. You gotta come back to yourself. So, garden. I go on walks. I read. I get up early, have some coffee, get my own me time. And that's important for all women, everybody, and also I have women friend groups, and they support me. I have a autism mom friend groups. I have a milk mom in the milk mom here in Greater Baltimore. And those are some good support groups. So we have mom talks, and we have talks about being a parent of an autistic child. Some groups you need some friends you need for certain purposes to support you. So you always have to have your own support group. It's important to get that support.